Welcome to today's coding challenge. Today's coding challenge is to build a web application that allows users to make a little doodle drawing in a canvas and then have that drawing saved to a Firebase database and then create a gallery of all those drawings or a way for users to click and find their previous drawings, something like that. So the first thing I need to do, and I'm going to use, first of all, you might want to check out my shared canvas tutorial series, which showed how to use WebSockets to have a kind of collaborative whiteboard. So this is kind of connected to that in some ways. But I'm going to use the p5.js JavaScript library for canvas drawing, and I'm going to use Firebase for saving the data. And I have a whole tutorial series about Firebase. If that's new to you, you can go back and watch those and then come back here if you like. Deep breath. Okay, so actually I already have a little, usually I do these coding challenges with no code whatsoever, but I have a little bit so far because I have the Firebase configuration stuff already in my code because I don't want to have to type all that out. And if you want to know how to get this Firebase configuration stuff, go back and watch my Firebase tutorials. Okay, so the first thing that I need to do is I'm going to make the canvas a little bit bigger. 400, 400. Let's just actually do 200, 200. And then I'm going to make a draw function. And I'm going to add a background. So now I want to just see that I have a canvas. Perfect. So now what I want to do is figure out a way to store points as I click and drag the mouse. Let's see. So let's use the, I think I want to use the, I think I could just do, actually, I'm just going to do this. A little bit silly. This is going to, I'll fix this later, but I'm going to just use in the draw loop, if mouse is pressed, then I need to create an object, which is a drawing. And that object, and actually I'm going to make that object an array, right? Because the drawing is going to be an array of points. Let's just start with that. If mouse is pressed, drawing.push, and I'm going to say var point equals an object which has an x, which is mouse x, and a y, which is mouse y, and I want to push that point into the drawing. So now, if I drag the mouse around and I look at in the console that drawing object, you can see it's a big array of all these x and y positions. So obviously I would like to see something where I'm drawing, so I can write a loop to look at everything in that array, and I can say at the beginning, I can say begin shape. At the end, I can say end shape, and these are all p5.js functions. Then I can just say vertex, drawing index i.x, drawing index i.y, and I can say stroke 255, stroke, I'm going to make it kind of thick, stroke weight 4, and no fill. So I'm going to make a generic path, just a shape with no fill. And as I do this, I've got the drawing. Now look what's happening though. Every time I lift the mouse, I only have one array. So as I add new points, it connects to the previous ones. So I've got to make this actually a little bit more sophisticated. What I want, and this is, I didn't do this in the shared canvas example, but I'm going to do this in here. What I actually want is every time I press the mouse, I want to start a new cycle of drawing. So I'm actually going to tie some events. I'm going to say canvas, mouse pressed, and I'm going to say start drawing, and then I'm going to say canvas, mouse released, and I don't mean start drawing, I don't know, I'm going to call it start path. Like the drawing is going to be an array of paths, end path. So what I want is I also need a variable, I'm going to call it current path, which is also going to be an array. So now I need a function, current path, start path. And what I'm going to do there is I'm going to say current path equals array. What I want to do now is end path. I want that current path to get added to the drawing. Drawing.push current path. So when I press the mouse down, I'm starting a new path. When I release the mouse, I've ended that path, and that full path, that array, goes into the drawing. So these points don't get added to the drawing, they get added to the current path. So if we look at that, now here, I'm looping through the drawing. And then the drawing is now, I need two loops, an array of paths. So for every drawing, I say a path equals drawing index I. And then for every, and then I need I can't use I again. For every spot in the path, set a vertex. And begin shape should be here. I should have a begin shape and an end shape for each path. Okay, so now I changed a lot of stuff. Who knows if I have some bugs in there? I'm sure I do. I always tend to have bugs. But the idea here is that the drawing is now an array of paths, and each path is an array of points. So let's see what happens now. The only thing is I don't see it until I release, because I'm only drawing the path when it's created. So I also want to make sure, and there might be a more efficient way that I could do this. Actually, all I need to do, this is actually really easy, is I actually just want to, I actually don't even need the end path, because I want to put the path in the array. Oh, no, sorry. That, I moved the wrong thing. Whoops. Current path push point, right? The drawing can get that current path as soon as it starts. I actually don't need to tell it when to stop, because, oh, I could be using if mouse is pressed here. I was going to put a different variable in to know when I start and stop, but so I actually don't need to tell it to stop, because it'll stop as soon as I release. Let's see if this works. End path is not defined, so I think that I don't need this release anymore. That could be useful in other contexts, and I can do this. There we go. So this is a full drawing, and we can see what is the drawing. The drawing is 4 different arrays. This array is 43 points. This array is 46 points. This array is 29 points. So now I have a thing. So all I need now is a save button, because if I have a save button, I can now send this drawing to Firebase. That was the whole point of this video in the first place. So I have a little doodle machine, and now I need to save that drawing to Firebase. And you can imagine, by the way, you could add color to this, all sorts of things. I'm checking to make sure audio and everything is working. OK, so let's think about it. I have the Firebase code. When do I want to send the drawing to Firebase? OK, so I'm going to add, first of all, I'm going to do stuff in HTML here. So I'm going to do div id equals canvas container, just to have the canvas placed in a particular div. And so when I create the canvas, I can say canvas.parent canvas container. There we go. Yay. So that still works. And now what I want to do is add a save button. Button ID equals save button, and say save. So I should see now a button that says save. So now all I need to do is, in my code, I need to get access to that button. So here in setup, I want to say save. I probably don't need this as a global variable, so I'm going to say var save button equals select. The ID, I called it save button. And then I can say save button mouse pressed save drawing. And I'm going to, now I need a function. I'm just going to put it at the bottom. Function save button, save drawing. And at the end, and in this function, what do I need to do? I need to connect to Firebase. So I need to make up a new reference. I'm going to call it Firebase.reference, and we'll call it drawings. And then I need to do what? Reference.push current. What? The drawing. It's already in. I'm like, well, what object do I put? It's already in an object. Now, I wonder if there's an issue if, there might be some metadata that I want to also add to the drawing or something, in which case it might actually make sense to make this an object. Like what if I wanted to put name? Like later, what if I wanted to have the name associated with the drawing? So I'm just going to do this right now, and I'm just going to have the name hard-coded in there. Sorry, I have an issue where something came up on my preview screen here. So, so this is just to show you that later, in case you want to add other data, that I can kind of wrap it in an object. So what I should see now when so I'm going to make a drawing, and I'm going to write my name, D-A-N. I'm going to put a little rainbow on top for whatever reason. I'm going to hit save. And I got an error. Oh, Firebase reference is not a function. And look at this, by the way. I have a real problem where clicking this extends the drawing. So that we're obviously going to have to fix. It's database.reference. So let's fix that other problem too. This start path is happening. It should happen only when this is a problem. Mouse is pressed is a global variable across everything. So this is why I need the released event. So what I need here is to add released again, and I need a Boolean variable, like I'm going to call it isDrawing, and it's going to be set to false. And when I press the mouse, so only if isDrawing is true should I be adding points. So when I start the path, isDrawing equals true, and when I'm done, isDrawing equals false, and that way when I click on the button, it doesn't think that I'm drawing. So let's try this again. And let me also, by the way, just to see that, I'm going to show you one thing that I didn't show in my Firebase tutorials, which is when I send the data, where do I do that? I can also have a callback. I'm going to call it data sent. And I'm going to write that as a separate function. Of course, I could use anonymous functions, but status, and I'm just going to say console.log status. So that should give me a success message. And I'm also going to say var result, and I'm going to say console.log result.key, just to see that things are working. So let's try this again. I'm going to make a nice rainbow, and I'm going to hit save. I got a key. I got a null, probably because there wasn't an error. So this probably is like error status. But let's just assume that it worked. Let's go to the console. Oh my goodness. So by the way, this is what happens when you publish your keys on a live stream and have public security rules. Other people are creating entries in the database. I'm not going to go in and look just in case there's some unpleasant language in any of them. But thank you for all your hello messages into my database. I'm going to go into drawings and look at this drawing. And look, name Dan, drawing. And you look at this. It's an array. The first element has all of these points in it. The second element has all of these points in it. So all of the data for that drawing is now in the database. We're done. I mean, we're done with half of this. OK, for the next step in this particular application that I want to do is create a listing below of all the available drawings in a way that I can click on them and see them. And I'm going to do this right here now in this coding challenge. So something that I can do is that I can create, and I showed this in my Firebase tutorials, is I can create a, I can say database. I can look at the reference, database.ref drawings, and I can say ref.onValue, which is an event that will get triggered whenever anything has ever changed in the database. Ref on value got data, error data in case there is an error. And now I can just have a callback. And I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom again. And I'm going to say got data. And I'm going to say error data. And just in case there's an error, I want to be able to see that in the console. And now in got data, I want to say var drawings equals data.val. And then I want to get all the keys, object.keys drawings. And then I want to iterate over all of the keys. And say console. And each key is keys index I. And I want to look at, I just want to look at the key first. So I'm just going to look at all the keys. Let's see if this works. So now we can see that that came out here in the console. the key for one drawing, and I'm going to make another drawing, a heart. Well, that's a terrible heart. Save, and we can see I now got 2 keys, and I can actually I can actually make a whole nother entry just for this drawing, and I can hit save, and now I have 3 keys. And I don't know what I got undefined for, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. So hopefully, if I go back to the Firebase console, we can see that there are 3 drawings in here now. And everybody else, hello, everybody has hacked my database and is giving all these hello messages, which I love to see. Hello, Oklahoma, where the wind falls mainly on the plain. I really should, I am not showing my musical theater stripes here by like getting the lyrics wrong to Oklahoma. Someday I'll be able to reference that better. Okay, so now what I want to do is create a clickable list here where any of them that I click on, I could actually look at that particular drawing. So what I want to do is go into index.html and I'm going to add a ordered list, and I'm going to give that a ID like drawing list. And in the code, I'm going to, instead of console logging the keys, I'm going to say an li. I'm going to create an li element, and it's going to just have the key in it. Just going to do that just to sort of like see that that works. And I'm going to say li.parent drawing list. So if we do this, if I refresh this page, we should see that the elements are down here. I have those drawings ordered by key, and I should probably give them a name. Would be, again, I could add name to this, which would be a much better thing to display, or date created, all sorts of things that you could think about doing after the fact if you want to improve on this. But what I really want to do is make those clickable. So I'm going to just make this, I'm going to actually make this an empty element, and I'm going to create a span element with, actually I'm going to create an A element, a link element, which is create A, with the key in it, and then I'm going to create an event called showDrawing. So, and then I'm going to parent that to the li element. So I have a full list. The list has li elements, and inside each li element is a link. And when I click on those, I should show the drawing. So now I need a function called showDrawing, and I just want to console.log this.html. So we should see, I just want to see the content of what's in when I click on it. The HTML function will give me the content of the DOM element associated with this event. Oh boy, made this complicated. Oh, undefined, undefined, undefined. Well, look at that. Click. Oh boy, and it tried to go to a link. OK, so what do I need to do here? So I should create a, that's where it's going, and it's got the key in it. Sorry, so I messed up. When I do use create E, I need to give it the place where it's supposed to link to, which I'm just going to use the pound symbol because I'm actually handling the click in JavaScript, and the key is the content. So that should be better. And let me go back. It's still, oh, there we go. So now you can see all these links, and when I click on them, I've got the ID. So now what I want to do is when I click on any one of these, I want to retrieve the drawing from the database. How do I retrieve the drawing from the database? So similarly to how I asked for all of the data, I'm actually going to ask for one piece of data in a very similar way. So I'm going to, down here in showDrawing, I know that the key is actually the thing. Now, I'm probably going to ultimately need to store the key in a different way, but it's kind of convenient that the key is the content of that link, so I can just pull it out. So once I have that key, I can say var ref equals database dot ref database.ref. Sorry, what is it? What was it? Drawings? And then I can use the path / plus that particular key. And then I can say ref on value. I'm going to make a function called oneDrawing. And I can also have error data. I can use that same callback for an error. And then I can have this function oneDrawing, which gets data var the drawing equals data.val, and I'm just going to console log it. So now this should be every single one of those links. When I click on it, will go to the database and ask, look in the database, not in the drawings, right? Remember, the database has this nice tree here. So when I look just at drawings, I get all of these. But if I do drawing/ID, I get what's in here. So let's try that now and see if this works. Oops, I need to go back to the page, hit refresh, and I'm going to click. And look at that. It came back, the drawing with this array of data. I'm going to click here. I got a different drawing. Now, Dan is hard-coded in there, so they all look like they're the same. But you can see this is different. This drawing only had 2 strokes in it. It was an array of 2. So this is actually working. And guess what I can do now? I can, all I need to do is say current drawing equals drawing.drawing. Now, I'm using the word drawing way too much because it's what's named here. So I'm just going to say like db drawing just to like have it db drawing. So db drawing.drawing. I don't know if this is making it better or worse, but now we should see that when I hit refresh here, click here, ooh. So setting current drawing was kind of a good idea, but I just realized in the main draw loop, I'm only drawing the things that are in the drawing array. So actually current drawing, the current path. So actually what I need to do, sorry, is say drawing equals d. It's not current, there's no current drawing. Drawing equals db.drawing. So let's try this. And now if I click here, there we go. So if I click on any of these, I have my previous drawings. And if I annotate this one, if I add to it and hit save, it should be in the database. Oh, I forgot to clear that, and I have all of these. And the last one is the new one. Hey, that's pretty great. Oh, I kind of finished. But I made a mistake, which is I didn't clear the list when I add new data. So I need to do that too. OK, so I'd like to add a couple more features to this web application before I finish up. One is I need a button to like clear the drawing, because once there's a drawing here, there's no way for me to start over a new drawing. So the first thing that I want to do is just add another button. And I'm going to go to index.html, and I'll add a button. I'll call it a clear button. And I'll say clear. And then I'm going to refresh the page. We see that the clear button is there. So now what I need to do is in the JavaScript code, what I need to do is find where I'm doing stuff with buttons. And I'm going to use the same technique by using the p5.DOM libraries function select to select the clear button. And then the clear button will get an event called clear drawing. And remember, the drawing is just this array. So if I want to clear the drawing, this is like a very simple thing to do. And I know I could just put an anonymous function here, but for clarity, I'm kind of just doing it. I don't know if it's actually for clarity. This might be worse. But I'm going to go down to the bottom of my code and write this callback function clear drawing. And all I need to do there is reset the array to nothing. So now I can draw something, right? I can hit clear. I can start over. Smiley face, I can hit clear. I could load up one of these drawings. I could hit clear and start over, or I could load this and I could start up on it. So you're starting to think there's a lot of possibilities here of some kind of exquisite corpse style collaborative drawing editing thing. So I don't have color. There's so much you could add to this if you want to like build off of this and make some sort of exciting thing. I hope you do. OK, so now we have the clear button. What's another feature I want to add? Well, one thing that's a bit of a problem is I'm going to add another drawing. I love hearts. So I'm going to just do some more hearts. I'm going to do a drawing with 3 hearts. Now watch what happens when I hit save. It updates the list, and it's really hard to see because again, if you're going to work on my work, I would add a name field and add a name for all these. But what you're seeing here is that it's duplicating the whole list again when I add just one. So something that I need to do, and I did this in another example recently, is I want to find where I'm creating that list, which is right here. And I want to give every one of these elements a class, and I'm going to just call it a listing. So I'm going to give this, and this is again the p5.DOM library, as a class function that gives it a listing class. And then when I'm sorry, I'm in the right place already. So this is the part where I create that. So before I create it, I want to, and there's probably a more efficient way to do this, because I could just sort of request from the database just anything new, or I could be more thoughtful about this. But I'm just going to kind of do this thing where I clear the whole list. So I'm going to just make a variable called ELT for elements, and I'm going to do select all, and I'm going to say dot listing, and then I'm going to loop through all of those elements and call the p5.dom library function remove, which removes the DOM element from the page. So before I generate the list, I'm going to clear it because I'm going to get all the data from the database again. So now we should have, I refresh the page, we can see here are all my drawings. And now I'm going to clear and make another drawing, which I'm going to try to make a cube. My kids love to draw 3D cubes. It's like sort of this like fascinating thing for like little kids. Okay, so I did that. I'm going to hit save, and we can see now that's just there. So dynamically added to the page. So we really gotten far along. In a way, this is done. I could say like, okay, well, I want to do something to add a feature to edit a drawing, update a record in the database, delete a drawing from the database. Those are things I'm going to leave for you to investigate. You know, again, all of the documentation for this is at this URL, firebase.google.com//read and write. So this is where you can see where are these functions on value, that sort of thing. But what I want to do, oh, and you know what? I realized I did something which I really should probably change. There's two more features. One is, this is the function I wrote earlier to show one individual drawing. So whenever I call ref.on, like I did with all the data, I'm tying an event to that record in the database forever. So if that record ever changes, this event will trigger again. And a lot of times you want that. But in this case, I might want to just only get the data from the database just once, and I can actually change this from on to once. So once will not tie that event forever, but just one time. So now I'm going to hit oh, I'm on the wrong page. I'm going to hit refresh. Let's hopefully this still works. And you can see this still works. But if I add a drawing, it'll refresh the whole thing. OK, so we're still almost done. But something that would be really good to add to this. What if what I want to do is be able to share my drawing with somebody else? Well, right now, the only way to do that is to sort of email somebody the ID and then tell them to go to this page and click on the ID. What if I could encode into the URL something like $ID equals my drawing? And so what if each one of those drawings could have a permalink where you could share that permalink and the drawing would show up? So here's how I'm going to start doing that. The first thing I want to do is just create that permalink. So when I'm making these listings, in addition to this link that dynamically updates the drawing on the page, I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. And I'm going to say create a, but instead I'm going to say $ID equals plus key. That's the link. And then what I want it to say is I'm just going to say permalink. And then what I'm going to do, so let's do this. And we should see now, oh, and I need to parent it also. Oh, and this should be, I'll just call this perma. And I'm going to say perma.parent li, so it also goes in that list. And you can see now, I have this, and then also these permalinks. Now the spacing is all off. So obviously with CSS and thinking about styling and being more thoughtful about the HTML, I'm just going to do something quick, which is like perma.style. This is a p5.dom library for adding some CSS styles. I don't know, maybe if I just add some padding, will that do it? Make it, I can differentiate between those two? Yeah, so now I can see I have the permalink and the actual, so this is now showing me the drawings. And now if I click on one of these, it goes to the page, but the drawing does not show up. But look what happens. It creates a URL query string with ID equals this. So I can have the page read that URL query string. How do I do that? Well, there's lots of ways you could do it. But since I'm using the p5.js framework, there is a p5.js function for this. So I'm going to go to the p5js.org/reference. Whoops, that's the website, reference. And I'm going to have to look for this. So getURLParams. So there's three functions here, but I can actually just get the parameters that are on the page in an object. So if I look at the reference for this, all I need to do is call getURLParams. So I'm going to do that in setup. So I'm going to come back here to setup, and I'm going to say, well, I'm going to do this right at the beginning, actually. And I'm going to say params equals getURLParams. With this right, And I'm just going to say console.log_params. So I'm going to go back to the page. Here I am into the code. I'm going to open up the console so I can see it. I'm going to hit refresh. And you can see this is what came in. An object with a field ID, which is the key from the database. That's all I needed. Perfect, right? So, and you can see that if I delete that from the URL path and just go, I'm getting an empty object. So what I can actually do here is I can say, if params ID exists, if that object has an ID, then first of all, this has got to happen. This has got to happen after I connect to the database. So I'm going to do this down here. And then, didn't I already have a function that's like showDrawing? Right? This shows a drawing for a particular key. Now here's the thing. I should probably give this an argument. So I'm going to put argument here. So if I already have the key, if I don't have the key, right, this is a way of having a function optionally take an argument. So on the one hand, it's an event that comes from that link and it gets the key from the DOM element, but I can also just call that function with a key. So I can say, if I don't have the key, then key equals this. Otherwise, though, if I just create it with the key, and so where do I do that in setup, right? So much scrolling. Right here, if I have an ID, I can just say now showDrawing with params.id. So this should now, and let's see if this works. Let's do console.log_params.id. So make sure that this actually goes here. So let's just look to the, I'm now loading it and it's empty, so I don't see anything, and I can still, oops. All right, first argument was an invalid path. So I messed up that function somehow. Let's see what happened here. Oh, you know what? It must have arguments when it's as the callback. So this didn't work. What a nice idea. Let's let me actually figure this out. And this would make this video a little bit longer, but I think it's going to be worth it. Let's look at the arguments array. You can always say arguments to look at what are the arguments for a function in JavaScript, whether you've specified them as actual parameters in the function definition or not. So what I want to do is do this, click on here. So the argument, it passes it a mouse event. So, so the first element is a mouse event. So I can probably say something like, if key is an instance of, this is really silly what I'm doing when I could just write a separate function. But let's see if this works. I don't know if that actually is going to work. If key is an instance of a mouse event. Let's see what happens there. Oh, that worked. So what I'm doing now is I'm repurposing the same function for two different uses. On the one hand, I want to be able to call the function with a key. On the other hand, I want this function just to happen as part of a mouse pressed event. And key, when I call it with a key, will actually be a key. Otherwise, it might be a mouse event. So I'm going to override whatever it is by getting it from HTML if it is. So now we can see I've got the blank object and everything works. But I can now go to the permalink, which refreshes the page and gets that because the key comes in. Permalink. Every time I refresh the page, it could come up with that drawing and I could add something to it, like it could make this a weird alien face or something. And I'm going to hit save. And now I have all these drawings. Here are all my drawings I could click on, and let me make this a little smaller so you can see them. I can click on all the drawings, and I have a permalink to all these drawings. So how do I control click or option click? It'll open in a new, no, command click, it'll open in a new tab. So I'm command clicking on all of these, and we can see there's separate pages that load these drawings from the database automatically. So this really brings us to the end of this tutorial. This is a p5.js sketch that allows users to create their own drawing. I can write a message to you all. Thank you. I was going to try to write thank you for watching, and that's going to take me way too long. Plus my doodling mouse handwriting is terrible. Thank you. I can make a drawing. I can hit save. It adds it to the database. I can on the same page, click between the drawings, and I can also get a permalink. So this page, anytime I refresh the page, starts with that drawing. And I could obviously make a separate page. I could make a, here's what you should do if you're watching this and want to do an exercise. Grab this code, it'll be in the description linked. The code for this will be linked on GitHub. Obviously you'll have to create your own Firebase database. I'll probably take out the keys, I guess. But rework this to make a separate view that shows like a gallery of all the drawings. And there's been a lot of wonderful collaborative drawing applications on the web. I'm thinking of Aaron Koblin's Sheep Market, I think. I'll link to that in this video's description as well, as you can see as a kind of nice inspiration for this kind of project. So thank you for watching. And I don't know if this might have ended up being a long video. I've lost my bell. But that concludes the database p5.js sketch for saving a drawing into a database and having a gallery of drawings example. If you make something with this, please share it with me on Twitter at Schiffman. Please share a link in the comments, ask your questions in the comments, and look forward to seeing you in another video tutorial soon. Okay, bye-bye.